In this tutorial, we will have a look how we can add lighting to our game to make it cool and more amazing as you can see. So we're gonna make it amazing and cool, adding light effect, basically lights into our game. And if you want to get the source code of this game, then you can check out in the description. I will have a link in the description so you can check that out. And also you're gonna get the apk aab and the source code of the game and the game build itself. So I will have it in the description, so make sure you check that out. And before I jump into the coding part, I want to thanks Thailand Harzes, Hyon, Game of Life aka Rajat Sharma, Gunting Batu, Pikachu, and Run Andre Galaxito. And a special thanks to Wei Kang, Win, and Tobias Lin Pointer for purchasing and donating me on my Patreon page or taking membership. So you can take membership, and by that you will unlock many benefits. You can unlock the source code, and I will highly recommend you to choose the higher one, which is enthusiast and the basically higher one. You can go ahead because with that membership you can just get the game amazing game source code and the game itself. So without furthering delay, let's dive into this tutorial. To work on lighting, what we need to do, we need to install universal renderer pipeline. To do that, move over to window in the top, then go over to package manager, and in the left side, in the left bar, inside this project manager tab, you can see in project unity registry, my asset, and build in. So make sure you select your unity registry and then scroll down to the bottom, says universal renderer pipeline. I have it over here, and if you're not able to find that, then you can simply search over here universal renderer pipeline. And also make sure your internet connection is well, else you're not gonna get that. So make sure you just do that and search over here universal renderer pipeline, or it can be called like a renderer pipeline. So you can just type that and you're gonna get it. And once you get, you're gonna see a install button in the right section over here. So just click on that install button, and it's gonna install universal renderer pipeline to your project. And once it's installed, we can just create our assets. We need to create the assets. To do that, we're gonna cut this tab, and to create the asset, make sure you firstly install it, and once the installation is done, then you can simply move over to your project tab, then assets, right click on assets, then create in the top, then go over to rendering. So firstly, what you need to do, you need to move over to this project tab, then assets, right click, create in the top, then move over to rendering over here. Basically scroll down a bit, says rendering, and in the bottom you can see URP asset with 2D renderer. So just click on it and it's gonna create the assets, and we have it over here. As you can see, we have the universal renderer pipeline assets. So we can simply call this one to something like, let's call it URP. So I'm gonna right click on it, let's click on this rename in the top, and let's call it a URP, universal renderer pipeline. So we basically need to create this. What you firstly you have to do, you need to right click on assets, then create in the top, then scroll down a bit, says rendering, and in the bottom you can see URP asset with 2D renderer. So since this is our 2D game, so if I select my URP, then go over to inspector, we can see new universal renderer. So instead of using this, we're gonna use the 2D. Why? Because this is a 2D game and we're gonna work with 2D lighting. So that's why we need to create our 2D URP. To do that, so once again move over to your assets, then right click, create in the top, then scroll down, says rendering, and in the bottom you can see URP 2D renderer. So we need to create this URP 2D renderer. Make sure you don't click on this URP assets by now, just click on this URP 2D renderer. So just click on it, and we can call it 2D URP, a universal renderer pipeline, or sorry, let's call it a 2D UR or URP, universal renderer. So now what we need to do, we need to select the URP, which is Universal Renderer Pipeline Assets, then go over to inspector, and over here as you can notice it says new universal. Instead of having this one, we need to drag the 2D UR that we recently created. So we're gonna select that from our assets folder and let's drag it over to that slot. And now our lighting just gonna work in 2D game because we drag it there as you can see. So basically you need to drag the 2D UR, which is 2D sorry, it is basically basically called renderer 2D data or 2D URP, you can simply say, or 2D UR. And now what we need to do, we need to do one more settings, that we need to move over to top left side says edit. So just click there and scroll down to the bottom says project settings. So just click on it, and in the left side you can see graphics. So select the graphics. So this will have project settings. So firstly you need to move over to edit in the top left, then scroll down to project settings, and it's gonna bring up this project settings tab. And in the left side you can see package manager, we have physics, we have player. So make sure you select the graphics in the top, we can see. So select the graphics, and now we need to drag the renderer pipeline asset over here that we created, which is our URP. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my URP, I'm gonna make it small so we can just make this one like this much, and we're gonna select our URP, which is universal renderer pipeline, and we need to drag it over here called default renderer pipeline. Instead of using the default one, it's a renderer pipeline asset, we need to drag our URP, which is universal renderer pipeline that we recently created, which asset which we recently created. So this is our URP, we just name it as a URP, short for universal renderer pipeline. So what you have to do, you need to select that and drag it over to this default renderer pipeline assets slot. And it says that changing this renderer pipeline asset may take a significant amount of time, and we're gonna click on this confirm. Yes, we do know, and we're gonna click on this confirm, and once it's confirmed, then we can just create the lighting. But before we do that, we need to make all of the this level this all of these things as lit. I'm gonna show you that. So just wait a moment, and I'm gonna show you why it's gonna not gonna work. Just wait a moment, because it's gonna take few seconds, and it's gonna we're gonna use our URP as a default renderer pipeline, which is universal renderer pipeline, or short for you can simply call URP. And we can see by now we have default renderer pipeline, and we using URP, universal renderer pipeline assets. And once it's done, we can simply cut this tab by now, and we can create the lighting. So if I move over to my hierarchy, then right click or hit this plus icon, then go over to a light over here. Basically you can simply move over to your hierarchy, right click, and in the bottom you can see over here says light. And what you need to do, you need to click on this spotlight 2D in the bottom, we can notice. So make sure you select this spotlight 2D instead of using, sorry, we're not gonna use this spotlight today. For now we're gonna we're gonna work with global light today. Basically this global light today just gonna affect the whole level. Basically this player, it's gonna affect our trees, traps, and all of those things. So that's why we need to create our global light 2D first, and after that we need to make it. So I'm gonna click on this global light 2D in the hierarchy, and I'm gonna select that, and let's drag it in the top of our hierarchy so we can see all the time. And I'm gonna call this one global light 2D instead of calling light 2D. So I'm gonna call this one global light 2D 2D. And now if I move over to my light script, light 2D script, or this component, and move over to my intensity and play and make it something like 0, as you can see it's not getting dark, or it's not getting dark, or we still able to see our player the whole level. So how we can just make it night time, basically like that. So what we need to do, we need to cover all of these materials as a lit material, because the lit material are just gonna affect with our lighting, so that's why. So if I select my player, then go over to inspector, sprite renderer, and move over to my material section. As you can see, it's using sprite default. So what we need to do, we need to click there, and then over here we need to search lit. We're gonna search for lit, and as you can see it says none. So we don't have it. So what we need to do, we need to click on this eye icon in the left side, we can see. And as soon as we're gonna click on it, as soon as we're gonna click on it, we're gonna see able to see sprite lit. So we need to choose our sprite lit over here. We can go with this lit as well. So instead of choosing lit, we need to search over here sprite lit. So let's search sprite lit. Sprite lit basically just gonna affect with lighting, so that's why. And if you choose something like sprite unlit, then it's not gonna work, because the light just gonna affect with only sprite lit. So that's why we're gonna choose this sprite lit. And as soon as we have chosen, we can see this totally gets dark. And if I select my global light 2D in the hierarchy, then go over to inspector light 2D script, and then play around with the intensity, we can see now indeed the light is working fine. So what we need to do, we need to select all of these game objects like this tree, this tile maps, this saw game object, all of them we need to convert into a sprite lit, which gonna affect with lighting. And if you choose a sprite unlit, then it's not gonna affect with lighting. So to get effect with lighting, we need to choose materials for all of these game objects as sprite lit. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select all of these traps. So let's select all of them by holding down shift or holding down control. Let's then go over to inspector, sprite renderer, then move over to material section, and over here search for sprite lit by typing sprite lit. And if you're not getting, then you can just click on this eye icon in the right side. You can see inside your select material over here. So we're gonna choose a sprite lit, and now we can see it's getting done. And we're gonna do the same thing with these tile maps. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my level. Basically I will move over to my level or grade. So I have it in underneath my staff scheme object in the hierarchy. Then let's go over to level, and I'm gonna select my these tiles, these ground tiles, these back tiles and the ground. Then go over to inspector, tile map renderer, and over there material section choose sprite lit. So we're gonna search for sprite lit, and we're gonna click on it in order to make it. So sorry, we need to convert that sprite as sprite lit, and make sure you click on this icon if you're not able to see that. So just click on this icon in the right side, you can notice. And now we're going to choose a sprite lit, and as soon as we have chosen, we can see our ground tiles getting a little bit dark. And we're going to do the same things with our tree tiles. So let's do that. So I'm going to move over to my stuffs game object, and then I'm going to choose my this back stuff, front stuff, and all of this. Then go over to inspector, tile map renderer or sprite renderer. Then go over to materials, and over here click and search over here sprite lits, which is gonna affect with lighting. And I'm gonna click on this eye icon, and we can choose this one, and now we can see it's fine. And we need to do the same thing with the background. But before that, I'm gonna do with my other stuffs as well, which is my water, ropes, and all of these things, or basically the grasses. Let's go over to inspector, tile map renderer, material, and then we're gonna choose our sprite lit. As sprite lit, let's choose that, because this sprite lit material just gonna affect with lighting, so that's why we need to do that. And now we're gonna do the same thing with our backgrounds. So let's select our background, and we will select all of this background, sorry. And we can click over here to expand. We're gonna select all of them. Then go over to inspector, sprite renderer component, then materials, and we're gonna choose our sprite lit. So let's search over here sprite lit, sorry, sprite lit, and then click on this eye icon. to get that, and we're gonna choose our sprite lit. Now we can see it's totally get dark, and now we can just bring up our spotlight. To do that, I'm gonna firstly click over here to just collapse or to keep my hierarchy clean. And what I'm gonna do by now, I'm gonna create a spotlight 2D. To do that, I'm gonna move over to hierarchy once again, right click or hit this plus icon, then go over to lights. So find light, and then make sure you click on this spotlight 2D. Don't click on this sprite light 2D, because we're gonna work with the spotlight 2D first. So that's why. So I'm gonna click on this spotlight 2D. Make sure you click on it. Don't click on this spotlight, because this is for 3D. So since we working with 2D game, so that's why we need to click on this spotlight 2D, and it's create the light, and we can drag the light over here, and we can just expand. And if we move over to inspector light 2D component, we can play around with the intensity of the light. We can increase the radius. So you can simply select the move tool in the scene view, and you can just select this, and you can just increase the radius like this. And if you want intensity a little bit, then you can go over to inspector light 2D, and intensity we can increase that value. And if you want to choose another color or a different color, then go over to light 2D component, then color, and you can choose the color you like. We can go with red, we can go with yellow, any color that we like. So this seems pretty much cool, as you can see, and this seems amazing. And we can just make this like this. So it's gonna be fine. I hope you get the idea that how you can work with lighting and how you can do that, and you can create your sprite light 2D as well. Basically it's up to you. And let's suppose I just want to make my player a little bit you can say the light effect of this player a little bit up. Then we can simply select our player game object. Then what we can do, we can just right click on it, then go to light, and then click on this spotlight 2D. And it's gonna basically we just making this spotlight 2D child of this player game object. So wherever our player game object just gonna move, basically left and right or jumping, the light also just gonna go with it. And if I just increase, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna choose a different color. And also I want to basically increase up the intensity. So we can move over to inspector light 2D component. We can play around with the color, we can play around with the intensity of it. We can play around with inner and outer spot anchor. Sorry, is it anchor? Not adjustment, I guess. Not adjustment, I don't know. So you can just play around with this value, and you can get that. And let's suppose you just want to target some sorting layer. Let's suppose you just want to target these trees only. Then you can just move over to target sorting layer, and you can choose the trees. You can click on this nothing, and then after doing that, you can select the trees wherever you have. But before you select the trees, make sure you assign it your trees tile as a tree sorting layer, like we have done earlier in this project. And if you didn't watch, then make sure you watch it. I will have the video link in the description, or you can simply just move over to my channel and you can check out that tutorial. So I hope you get the idea that how you can work with lighting. But before that, I'm gonna play around with this, and I'm gonna make the color a different. So I'm gonna move over to my inspector light 2D, and then color, we can choose a different color. Let's suppose I want to choose yellowish, or let's suppose white, light like blue. And now if I just cut and then click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, you will see wherever our player game object just gonna move left and right, or we gonna attack on our enemy game object, you will see that light effect just gonna go with our player game object that we created, because we just made our spotlight a child of our player game object. So that's why it's gonna go with our player game object wherever player game object travels. So if I moved, as you can see, indeed the lighting is going with our player game object. And basically this seems pretty much fine, and we can notice it's working fine. So that's pretty much cool. So I hope you get the idea that how you can work with lighting, and you can just play around with the level and you're gonna get it. And I'm gonna click on this play button in the top in order to get out of play mode. And let's suppose you want a lighting over here in the saw game object, then you can select the game object first in the hierarchy, then right click on it and make that light 2D game object a child of this game object, like as I have done inside this player game object, as you can see in the hierarchy. So I hope you get the idea that how you can do it, or how you can work with lighting in Unity 6 or in Unity game engine. And I will see you in the next tutorial.